joined by John DeShazer, who is on the field there in Charlotte after that loss. It was a tough one for the Saints without 9 of their usual starters in this one, and of course 11 penalties leading to 115 penalty yards. So a little bit of a messy play on both sides of the ball. The defense was able to have some good plays in the third quarter, especially had some stops there on the Panthers in that third quarter, keeping them scoreless there. JD, what are your initial thoughts here from this loss?
Well, really just a tough day. The Saints were unable to control the line of scrimmage offensively or defensively, and that's something that we saw against Green Bay, where they were able to control both of them, and you had the lopsided score there. So that essentially was the whole crux of this game. They weren't able to keep Carolina out of the offensive backfield, and they weren't able to generate enough pressure on Sam Darnold at quarterback for Carolina, and that's why you have the result that you have now. The curse of sports here, and of course, is, a lopsided win only counts for one. The beauty of sports is a lopsided loss only counts for one. So the Saints get out of this one with just the one loss, and of course, a bad taste in your mouth, and a lot of corrections to be made, but it's only one. They're 1-1, so hopefully they can rebound and get ready for New England.
Everybody really excited after that big win against Green Bay. However, we have to be honest about the situation that the team was coming into this game. Lots of injuries heading into this one. Of course, there were people that were unable to play and a lot of coaches that were unable to be there to help make some of those in-game adjustments. JD, you look at the play of quarterback Jameis Winston in this one, definitely felt a lot of the pressure from the Panthers' defensive line. 4 sacks. He had an interception, really unable to develop some offensive rhythm. What did you see there on the offensive side of the ball?
And I think that was exactly it. I thought he, got to the point where I don't know if it was frustration or if he felt like he needed to do something spectacular, but he understood that the situation wasn't going well. They weren't getting a whole lot of separation at receiver. They weren't getting a lot of guys open. He wasn't getting a lot of time in the pocket, and I think he got to the point where he just wanted to make something happen. And when you do that, especially when you get a defense in a feeding frenzy, as Carolina did later in that game, then that's the kind of thing that can happen. They can force the turnovers, and then it can pretty much snowball from out of nowhere. And I think that's exactly what happened with the Saints. I think there was a bit of frustration, certainly toward the end of the first half, the first interception where he escaped pressure, kind of threw a jump ball down near the goal line. Not what you want to do. And of course, we had, hailed his decision-making in the first game. That's the kind of thing that you want to see him be able to, be judicious about it, throw it away, take a sack, whatever the case may be, but to remain in field goal position. And unfortunately, on that particular play, it took the Saints out of an opportunity for a field goal. And then the later turnovers, pretty much the same thing. I think he just, got a little bit desperate.
And now we're going to tune into some post-game thoughts from head coach Sean Payton.
No, he's not up yet. He'll be here pretty soon, but not up yet. That's them basically making the Zoom call, letting everybody know that he's getting ready to come pretty soon, and he'll be in. So, but I'm sure he's right now talking to his team and probably going over some of those very things that we were just talking about here, and just talking about maintaining your poise, especially on the road, cutting down the turnovers. The penalty yards that you mentioned are alarming. Especially after having a pretty clean first game against Green Bay, and you get into that kind of penalty yardage, you're talking about 100 yards of penalties. That's a lot of opportunities that you keep your defense on the field on third down. You can keep advancing the football for Carolina, and you put yourself in, I wouldn't say an impossible position to win, but you make it really, really, really hard to win when you have that combination of penalty yards and that combination of turnover there.
Let's look at some of the bright spots in this one. A lot of it coming in the third quarter, holding the Panthers scoreless, and a lot of it because of Bradley Roby getting his first playing time here for the Saints. He had a sack. What did you like from his play?
Well, he held up pretty well. That defense held up really well in that third quarter. I thought they just were on the field for a ton of time in that first half, maybe 20-plus minutes in that first half. And when you're talking about only 30 minutes in the half, they're on the field two-thirds of the time, and it's a warm day. But I thought they really rallied in that third quarter. I thought Bradley Broby showed you some of the things that he can be utilized. Now he goes on the blitz because basically you got to blitz. You got to start turning up the heat because they weren't getting there with the pressure of the front four. But I thought he adds that element, and that's always nice. And I thought the rookie, Payton Turner, I thought he especially had an outstanding game. He did have a couple of penalties, kind of young plays, but he came up with his first career sack, and he applied a lot of pressure. He looked like the guy that the Saints believed he is when they drafted him. He looks like a really good defensive end on the right side. He applied some pressure again. He's a long guy. He's really, really big. And so I think he's going to be really valuable and good for that rotation along that defensive line as they go along in this season, especially as he learns a few more tricks of the trade.
You mentioned Payton Turner having that good game with 1 sack. He had 5 tackles. 4 of those were solo. He was doing a lot of good things on the field. He had 3 tackles for a loss, which is the most out of anybody in this ball game on the Saints side, of course. But then special teams as well with the blocked field goal. That was a big moment in the game. Really felt like the Saints were going to get some momentum there after that. And then the return from Bond. It was pretty impressive few minutes there of play for the Saints, JB.
It was one of those games where you were hoping they could get a spark from somewhere, and Carl Granderson with that blocked field goal did exactly that. And you were hoping kind of that Zach Bond would take it to the house because they were having so many struggles on offense. You just didn't know if they were going to be able to punch it in, and unfortunately they weren't. But, you know, this is a complimentary game, and so sometimes your special teams or your defense has to pick up your offense. They weren't able to do it in this one, but, you know, you get the blocked field goal. You get a pretty good defensive showing in the second half, and so there were some elements there that the Saints will obviously build off of. They just couldn't get it going offensively. They just couldn't get it going up front, especially offensively. And when you can't run the football in the NFL, it's really difficult to win. We saw that last week against Green Bay where the Saints pretty much snuffed out Green Bay's run. And so you have the same thing to happen conversely, unfortunately, to the Saints in this one where they can't run it. They get one-dimensional, and it's very, very difficult to play from behind when the opposition knows exactly what you're going to do, where your quarterback's going to be. Even though Jameis Winston's fairly mobile, but when they know you've got to throw it, and all they have to do is rush you, and you can't run it, you can't keep them off balance, this is going to be a difficult day.
Jameis Winston leading the team in rushing with 20 yards. Not sure that was in the game plan heading into this one. That offensive line was pretty much who we saw in the game against Green Bay. What was the difference in this one? Was it just the pressure and the defensive line of the Panthers that was creating so many more problems for the Saints?
Well, Carolina had a good rush plan. I mean, they had 6 sacks in the season opener against the Jets, and you say, well, the Jets have a rookie quarterback. They should be able to confuse him, get some sacks, and that's partly true. But a lot of it is applying pressure is applying pressure because Zach Wilson, the quarterback for the Jets, is a mobile quarterback, so they were able to get to him also. So they already have a pretty good rush plan already we see early in this season. They've got some guys who can get home from the edge, and again, once they get the lead on you, then they can unleash them. They came with a couple of blitzes where they're able to get to Jameis Winston. So, now all of a sudden you can apply more and more pressure. And your offensive linemen, when they're in pass sets every down, it feels like, then it's going to be difficult.
I'm sure there's
and Coach Payton
lots
is
of
on his way,
conversations happening in the locker room. We're going to tune in now to Coach Payton and hear his thoughts after this 26-7 loss.
Is this a virtual one?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, I'll start. Obviously, it's a disappointing loss. Give Carolina credit. We did a number of things and things that you just can't do to win a game. Offensively, particularly, it's as poor as we've been in a long time around here, and that starts with me. We've got to do a better job going in. Our protection plan wasn't very good. It had nothing to do with us being shorthanded with coaches or us being away or the COVID. All of those would be excuses. They played better than us today and deserved to win the football game. So I'll lead with that. Any questions?
Sean, what were they doing with their blitz?
Oh, look, it's a zone pressure. Phil, we knew coming in they'd have a couple different pressure looks. We didn't handle the communication well enough. We didn't handle the pressures well enough, and we didn't coach it well enough.
Ron, how did y'all have to adjust without the coaches? Did you have to change some responsibilities?
Yeah, look, a little bit. As far as game day, we had a few new guys up in the booth, and then we handled the substitutions a little differently. None of that, though. None of that really was a big issue. I think, and I mean this. I think starting with me, we've got to have a better plan with some of the stuff that we saw, and we had seen it on tape, and obviously we got more of it and didn't handle it well, and so we clearly didn't work on it well enough and effectively enough, and it kind of bit us in the butt today.
Sean, how much would you say your offensive prop, on Jameis, and how much just about trying to say was the last short of being able to get that?
Yeah. We're not, look, everyone's quick to, I think we got to be careful. We're not assigning responsibility, blame. It starts with me right now. We'll look at the tape tomorrow, but it starts with our plan and us as coaches, and that's where it starts, and that's just the truth.
Sean, defensively did y'all generate enough pressure on Darnold? Was that an issue today?
Yeah, let me give you this scenario, and you guys I think are smart enough to see it. It was the exact opposite of last week. We became the team that was on the field for however many snaps. We were the team that didn't have any snaps or enough snaps offensively, so therefore there's an attrition defensively. It's hot, and we hung in there, and we're going to watch the tape. I'm sure there's going to be a number of plays we're close to making that we got to clean up. But ultimately, the time of possession was way slanted the other way this weekend, and it's hard to win games that way. I'll be honest with you.
Did a nice job of stopping the run. You're playing this play call, or when you just don't get that player, and when you have 11 snaps, everybody does it.
Yeah, look, you're constantly looking to pick up some momentum. Despite where you're at in the game and how you've played, you're still in it, and you're still trying to generate a drive, but we just weren't able to do that. And again, I clearly that performance starts with me, and I say that I'm just telling you, we're going to watch the tape, and there's going to be a number of plays that we wish we had maybe approached it differently. Start by giving credit to Carolina, but we struggled to find any rhythm.
It did seem like the Saints or the defense kind of found its footing late in the first half, and then in the second half there.
Look,
what were your impressions there, and particularly Payton Turner's day?
We'll take a peek at the film. Again, I thought they battled hard. They were on the field a lot, and if you're down on the field, you felt the temperature and the amount of snaps that they had early. It just it's not the formula that you need to win games.
But we should have executed that.
Sean, what is the message to try to get things like adrenaline and emotion going after a game like this? You probably correct to not some of the way that
There's no listen. It's a long season. We've certainly got to see this tape, make the corrections, and then I say this all the time, and it's the truth. And after the full day tomorrow, we've got to refocus and get on to the next game. It's that simple. And so, we got to be able to put this one behind us the same way we had to do it last week and get on to the next game.
Were Lattimore and Gardner-Johnson close calls? Did they even have a chance to play today?
Yeah, we kind of went through the week. They did. We just kind of went back and forth, and we'll see where they're at the start of next week. All right, thank you.
Just heard from head coach Sean Payton following that loss, and he reiterated a lot of things that JD and I talked about just moments ago, the mistakes, those 11 penalties for 115 yards. That's not going to help you win ball games. And then he said that the pressure that was coming from Carolina, they didn't handle that well. And the communication just wasn't what they were used to. So that created another element that was hard for the team to respond and work through in this ball game. Lots of things that they're going to look at and film. And coach said it's going to be really important to refocus after this one and move on to the next game, because it is a long season and this is just one game. So you don't have to get down on the Saints yet. We saw what they can do in week one. There's potential there. And once we get a lot of these players back from injury, it's going to be better in the next few weeks as we're getting more of those starters back on the field. We're going to hear from running back Alvin Kamara, quarterback Jameis Winston, safety Malcolm Jenkins, and linebacker Demario Davis coming up shortly. Going to be good to hear from a lot of those guys on their thoughts, what they were seeing there on the field. Some good moments from linebacker Demario Davis. He was applying a lot of pressure, almost had a near interception. So be good to hear from them and kind of see how they were feeling, especially Winston, in regards to that pressure. Of course, Coach Payton didn't want to assign blame to anybody else, took full responsibility for this one, different play calls that they would have liked to have back, and just the way that they handled some situations. So he will definitely take some time with that game film and see what they can fix. A lot of near misses, and hopefully those are some things that they can just tweak going forward. Payton also mentioned the time of possession. That was obviously another area that affected things on the field. We know that John DeShazier was talking about how hot it was there in Carolina, and coach definitely backed him up on that one. He said that's something that's going to affect a team, especially if you're on the field as much as the defense was. They were on the field for over 20 minutes in the first half overall. The Carolina Panthers had the ball for over 37 minutes in this ball game. That's a lot of time. And as the game goes on, you're getting tired and you're being affected by that heat. So it's a natural attrition that's going to happen in the ball game for those guys. But they stuck with it. They played until the end. Just a lot of close plays that we're going to hope they can right going forward. Definitely a struggle to find any rhythm for the team offensively, something that Coach Payton also stated there post-game. And again, not wanting to put blame on anybody, on Winston or anybody else on that side of the ball. Just a team effort. And Coach Payton said that they're going to take some time to really attack this one and hopefully turn things around in their next game. Of course, the Saints will be on the road again at New England. And then after that game, they have said that they will return here to New Orleans and get ready for our first home game, October 3rd against the Giants. So they'll be back in Fort Worth this week, practicing again at the TCU facilities. But it's not going to be that much longer until the team is back here in New Orleans and hopefully back in front of a lot of fans in the Superdome, because they will need you guys to be loud and proud and excited about what the Saints team can do. Hopefully get some of that magic back from week one. Again, we're waiting on running back Alvin Kamara, quarterback Jameis Winston, safety Malcolm Jenkins, and linebacker Demario Davis to speak with the media following the 26-7 loss in Charlotte. Lots of stuff to talk about in this one, and we'll continue to break down the game as well as the comments that we hear from the players. I think it was a tough loss, a tough way to start the ball game, of course, as the Panthers drove down the field and scored in less than 3 minutes of clock time. That was the first touchdown that the Saints have allowed in this NFL season. Went without allowing a touchdown against Green Bay, so it took 63 minutes before the Saints allowed a touchdown. But it kind of continued from there for the Saints as the defense had a hard time against the Carolina Panthers' Sam Darnold. They did get an interception on the day, and that was due to a lot of pressure. It was Malcolm Roach who intercepted Darnold in the second half. Lots of good things that happened as the game went on. I think there were some corrections that were made. We saw some good moments from the defense. We saw some good moments from the special teams in blocking the field goal. So definitely some stuff to hang your hat on and be excited about, and always good to get some players in that aren't used to starting and have time on the field. Of course, lots of injuries to the starters, so getting some of the rookies some playing time. Talked about Turner getting this opportunity and coming up in a big way. He was a big bright spot for the team today. Hopefully, as the year continues, he'll continue to get more comfortable, clean up some of those rookie mistakes, and then we'll just see those numbers continue to grow. Like 1 sack, 3 tackles for a loss, and this one, 5 tackles overall. We're going to bring in John DeShazer again, who is in Charlotte, as we wait for the players to come up to the podium and give us their thoughts on this one. John, you're there, you're talking to other media members. What's the feeling of this one after the loss here in Charlotte?
Aaron, I mean, it's a game and it's early in the season. There are 15 more, and what you don't want to see from fans or media or a team or anyone is for everyone to think that this is the way it's going to be, because this is the way it was today. I mean, there's a long season, and we've seen just from the first 2 weeks how wildly things can fluctuate in the NFL. Go from one blowout victory to a blowout loss. So things can fluctuate and change quickly in the NFL when you're talking about professional athletes and you're talking about guys who have all week to study what it is that you do. And Coach Payton said, they expected some pressure packages from Carolina, and unfortunately they didn't handle them very well on this game. Now, you're going to see some of the same things when you play New England in this upcoming game, because it's a copycat league. If I figure out what can beat you and I see someone else do it, then I'm going to mimic what they do and tell you, okay, you're going to have to show me that you can stop it. You're going to have to show me that you can beat it before I'll stop doing that exact same thing. So they know some of the things that they'll see going up to play the Patriots, and hopefully they'll be able to correct some of those things during this week. They'll have hopefully the full complement of staff back. You might be able to get some players back if Marshawn Lattimore and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson were game time decisions, then maybe they'll be back for this game coming up. And that'll help tremendously, because they could have used a CJ against Christian McCaffrey today. Could have used, obviously, a Marshawn Lattimore out there playing cornerback. He's one of the tops in the league. So hopefully a lot of things they'll be able to button up and kind of close up and clean up during this week of practice. And the penalties, some of them, kind of mental errors, and some of them were just, kind of penalties of chance. The Christian Ringo personal foul penalty, I'm not exactly sure what else Christian Ringo can do in that situation. He's being knocked down by an offensive lineman. He's basically falling into the quarterback, and he gets called for a personal foul. So I'm not exactly sure how you coach that differently, but some of the other issues will be coached differently and can be cleaned up. And those are the ones that you look forward to the Saints getting in practice this week and hopefully cleaning up.
Right, some of those neutral zone infractions, offsides, those are things that you definitely want to clean up. Although we know we had people in different positions on the line, so that's stuff that's going to happen. The communication between a lot of new players on the field, something that they're going to have to get used to. You mentioned we're going to get some players back, or we hope that we will get some players back. Some of those, like Marshawn Lattimore, who was a game time decision, and then Gardner Johnson, who was supposed to be that one-on-one with Christian McCaffrey, unable to go today. Definitely a big effect in the game, as we saw Christian McCaffrey have a good day on the ground and through the air. He became a factor, even though he was battling some cramps on the sideline. As far as we know, though, the Saints come out of this one without any additional injuries. Is that kind of your initial take here, JD?
Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, I don't think anyone left the game with an injury, and so hopefully, as we go along and the injury report is released later in the week, hopefully it remains as clean as it appeared to be today. Now, sometimes these nicks show up a little later on Monday or a little later on Sunday night where, maybe there was an ache during the game that didn't prevent a guy from playing, but might prevent him from practicing, might prevent him from playing next week. We'll just see how that goes as the week goes along. But as we saw during the game, you didn't see anyone basically depart because of an injury. So that's always a good thing. I don't recall seeing anyone go to the medical evaluation tent during the game or anyone being carted off. So those are good things. You hope that that's a good sign going into the New England game because, again, this was already a team that was pretty battered coming into this one. Further injuries certainly won't help the cause.
I want to check in on you, though, John. You were complaining about the heat early in this one. You are good. You got hydrated. We're feeling good now, stretched out, warm. I don't know. You're going to be able to make it, right?
Well, Aaron, I'm a vet, so I did not unlike Christian McCaffrey, I did not need anyone to roll my hamstring. I was good to go. Now had someone roll my hamstring, it's probably tight enough to where. Well, let me stop lying. The thing wouldn't have broke on my hamstring, but be that as it may, we were able to kind of power through and get through this game, and a little sweaty, but unbowed. Myself and Brendan Hassett, our videographer, producer here on site. So we were able to power through. In fact, Brendan had a lot tougher than me. He was on the field during the game, and so he's probably a sweaty puddle right now. But myself, I'm fresh and clean right now, so I feel pretty good. I could play two.
Yeah, I was going to say, Brendan probably had it a lot worse than you did because he was actually on the field running around, taking film and getting all the plays for us. Now, what was the atmosphere like there in Bank of America Stadium? We saw a lot of black and gold heading into the game. What was the atmosphere like and the representation there?
Well, the press box is enclosed, but I do believe a couple of those false start penalties, I think those were crowd related. It sounded like the crowd was pretty loud. Now, again, it was a little bit muffled because we were in the press box. It is enclosed, and you can't really get the full effect of it. But I would say some of those false starts on offense, I believe a couple of those were crowd induced. And, it's a good atmosphere. It's good to see fans back, obviously, after going through last season where we were going from city to city, including the Caesars Superdome, where fans were limited at best, and some of those facilities were completely empty besides us and the concessions people. So it was great to see fans, but I believe they had a little bit of effect on the Saints offensive line, especially because you're talking about Cesar Ruiz making his first NFL start at center. You're talking about Calvin Throckmorton making his first NFL start at right guard. Now, everybody else is veterans, but still, you add in that little bit of inexperience, and maybe that affected some of what the Saints wanted to do offensively, or certainly affected, I think, them jumping a little bit or moving a little bit early. And even you saw it from some of the veterans. You saw some veterans have some problems on that offensive line. Carolina is really good across the front. I don't know exactly if everyone knew how good they were, but I think everybody's got a pretty good idea now because the Saints are one of the top offensive lines in the league, and Carolina, I don't want to say had their way with them, but they had a pretty good way with them in this one. I mean, they were able to apply a lot of pressure to Jameis Winston, and when you're talking about two of the best offensive tackles in the league, and you're talking about some guys who are experienced across the offensive line, that's something that I don't necessarily know that anyone expected coming into this one.
And taking a look at some of the rookies that played today, what are your thoughts on their performances?
Well, the biggest one that stands out is obviously Payton Turner. Right? I mean, you'd like to see him. Paulson Adebo, I think he got a little bit of a baptism. We saw, we celebrated how well he played against Green Bay. But sometimes with rookies, it can fluctuate. It can go up and down. I think today was probably a bit of a down day for him. He's going to have better days. He's a really good cornerback, but today was one of those days where he's going to have to bounce back from. Zach Vaughn isn't a rookie at linebacker, but he pretty much is because he didn't play much last year. I thought he had a little bit of a rough go of it early, especially if you're talking about matching up a guy one-on-one against Christian McCaffrey in the pass game. That's difficult. Whether you're a second-year guy or whether you're an eighth-year guy, Christian McCaffrey is just that good. So I thought for the most part they held up pretty well. It's obviously a good learning experience. You hate to learn in losing, but sometimes that's just the way it is, so you take the lessons where you can get them, you hopefully improve from them, and you become better because of it.
We saw Paulson Adebo move to either side of the field. The ability for him to do that and seamlessly continue in the game, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, he's got some versatility. He played a lot of snaps in the season opener. He played a lot of snaps in this game. So, he's a guy who looks really good for a third-round pick. I don't want to say he's a steal because guys picked in the third round, you expect them to play in the NFL. You expect them to start in the NFL. But we're going to cut short right now because Terron Armstead is coming to the podium.
All right. We'll listen in to Terron Armstead.
Hey, Terron, I know you guys jumped out in the field and had a all kind of process with Jameis, but where do you think things kind of went wrong with tackling for that?
I couldn't really hear you. I'm sorry.
I'll try this again. Where do you think things went wrong with the sections today? I know you haven't had a chance to watch film or anything like that.
Yeah. I think our problems were in communication. That's from just between the O-line and quarterback, just communication problems. They did a good job of throwing out a lot of different looks. And then the crowd noise was a factor too, I would say. Just not having much time doing the silent count and all those nonverbal communications. Those small things played a part. A few plays where it was a factor, but we just got to improve our communication.
They really set the tone.
Would you say overall just as bad an offensive effort as you've been a part of in a long time? Would that be safe to say?
Effort? No, I don't think it was I get what you're saying, but no, I don't think it was a bad effort. I know we put the time in, we put the work in throughout the week, and we came out ready to go. For sure. I got to give credit to the Panthers and what they were able to do, able to execute their game plan. Possessed the ball for an extremely long time. We felt like we had real limited amount of plays, especially in the first half. So, no, I wouldn't say this was a bad offensive effort. I would say more so props to those guys for executing.
Richard Walker, are you on? Okay, we'll go to Mike Triplett.
Terron, I don't mean this as far as a signing blame to anyone, but with a new center this week and a new quarterback in general, are some of those communication issues something that takes more time than maybe we on the outside realize and give credit to?
We're just in a race to improve. From last week to this week, we're just in a race to improve, and that's a broad. A broad amount of things. Communication is definitely one of them. But we got a lot of things to get better at. And, as we go and hit the work week, communication is definitely one of them. But we got a ton of things we need to clean up if we want to be as good as we feel like we can be.
Maybe just.
What was the plan for protection coming into this game?
It varies. It varies. Depends on the look. What we're trying to play, we're trying to get accomplished. So it varies. That's I wouldn't be able to just give you like a general a protection.
Captain. Okay, Luke Johnson.
Terron, there was one specific play. I think it was a play Burns sacked Jameis on his third down. It looked like you were kind of sticking between him and Chin on the blitz. Can you say what happened on that play?
That's a protection where it's 5 guys protected and 6 coming. So one guy's going to be free, and just being able to diagnose that, where he's coming from, and if we can get the ball out. But if not, Jameis make the right play, just hold on to it, and not create a turnover.
At Terrell.
Hey, sorry, I was not paying attention, I was muted. With the amount of unblocked rushers specifically that we saw today, You may have touched on this, but what do you attribute that to? Is that like often a communication thing or something bigger?
Yeah, that's communication. That's communication, being able to diagnose what they're doing. And like I say, credit to those guys, disguising coverage, variation, personnel. They got a lot of guys that are doing multiple things, whether they're rushing or dropping. So it becomes a little more difficult to diagnose, who we want to include in that protection. So, it's just it's a variation of things, but on our behalf, and what we can control is our communication, getting our eyes and getting our sets to the right people.
Question, Jeff Nowak.
Yeah, if you could just kind of expand it, how do you clean up that communication throughout the season? You're going to New England next week. It's going to be another live environment. What are the steps you take to kind of iron that out over the course of the week?
It goes to the game plan. It goes to the guys up front. It goes to the quarterback. It's a collective effort. It's a collective effort for sure, and that's our number one priority. Protect the quarterback. Have our protection plan, especially for those third down situations. And once again, I credit the Panthers for just having a vast majority of variations, personnel to be able to switch and change to keep us on our toes. We might slide to this guy because he came the last time, but it was a different situation on that play. So credit to those guys, but we'll be better.
Appreciate your time, Terron.
Yep.
On next, if you guys want to get your questions in, call them. Luke, you can start.
Hey, Alvin, obviously this week was a huge different outcome from last week. With all the veteran guys in the team, like feeling pretty well equipped to handle not getting too high, not getting too low after either of those two games.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's early in the season. We come off a win last week. That don't matter. We had a game to play this week, and obviously we didn't get the result we wanted. But like you said, the vets on this team, we know what it is. It's a lot of football to play, but we take responsibility. We got to come out better. We got to be better. We got to, to win. Nobody likes losing.
Mouton.
Alvin, Sean said that you guys struggle to find any kind of rhythm. Is that how you would describe it, especially in the first half? You didn't have the ball very many times. Is that how you would say it?
Yeah, I think it was hard for us to get a rhythm. We left our defense out on the field too much. You can't do that. It's not conducive to a winning game. We gotta do a better job of kind of finding a rhythm and finding the flow and being more efficient on first and second down. Like I said, it's early in the season. We have one game under our belt where the things went good and things were firing, and now looking at this week, you got some adversity and you got to find a way to react and respond. So I don't blame anybody. I think it's I'm not gonna blame anything. It's us. It's on us. We got to do better. It's our responsibility to do better.
Jeff Nowak.
I can relay Ron's question. Did missing Joel Thomas and again Richard coaches today, what was the impact of that throughout the game? Was there kind of an effect, or?
It wasn't about anybody not being here. I think it was our responsibility to still come out and play without coaches being there. There's no handicap. Nobody cares that coaches aren't there. We don't get an extra second on the play clock because we don't have coaches. We don't get an extra down because there's no coaches. It is what it is. It's still a game to play, with or without. The whole coaching staff could have been gone. They wasn't going to cancel the game. We got to keep going. It is what it is.
And so it seemed like the Panthers really just bottled everything up. Was it the kind of the speed to the sidelines, or were they doing anything specifically that made the run game just difficult to get off the ground today?
I don't think we ever even got a run game going, really. I don't know how many attempts we had, but we got to get in a better rhythm. And I think it starts up front with our O-line, and we talk about running the ball. We have to have opportunities for it to start up front. So it is what it is.
Last one here, Nick Underhill.
Did they do anything with their pressures that surprised you guys at all?
Nothing surprising. We just got to communicate and get it picked up.
Is that communication harder with Eric not being out there? Does that change anything?
I mean, a little bit, but we just got to communicate regardless.
Your time, Alvin. Of Malcolm Jenkins on next. Anybody have any other questions for Malcolm? We'll go with Luke first.
Hey, Malcolm, when Sean was talking about the game today, he said it was like almost the opposite of last week's game. Does that kind of feel that way for you as well?
I mean, yeah, I think in the first half last week, we probably had 3 drives on defense, most of which we got off the field pretty quick. In the first half this game, we were on the field for a while. A lot of that, had a lot to do with ourselves not winning on third down, having a lot of penalties, just really shooting ourselves in the foot.
What's the conditions like on the field? I mean, is it really demanding of the they're playing 10, 11, 12 play drives in that heat?
No, I don't think condition or anything like that has anything to do with it. We, obviously practice in the heat, practice outside. It's just hard to defend that many plays, and when you have opportunities to get off the field, you gotta, do yourself a favor and get off the field.
Triplet.
Malcolm, what's your message to teammates? I know you guys were riding on a lot of sort of emotion and adrenaline with everything you've been dealing with, and to be able to keep that up after a game like this can threaten some of that wind out of yourself.
No wind getting knocked out here. We show up regardless of what the date is, where the field is, who the opponent is, and that's not going to change. You said we were riding on emotion. I don't think so. I think we were riding on our ability to execute, and we didn't do that enough today. And so, that was below our standard. But like anything, it's hard to have energy and fun when you're not executing. And so for us, the immediate, task at hand is to diagnose what we didn't do well, what teams are trying to attack us, and figure out how to execute better as a team.
Luke Johnson.
Yeah, Malcolm, kind of related to that. You think it's a good thing that you guys have as many veteran voices in the room here to not get too high after that week 1 game, not get too low after this one, just kind of let everyone know that it's really using that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think our leadership is a strength in the culture that we built over a long time. We know how to win. We know what it takes to win. We got a coach that doesn't allow us to stray away from that formula, and the young guys follow suit. So it's going to be obviously up to a lot of the veterans on the team to make sure that we move past this one the same way we wanted to move past last week.
Appreciate your time, Malcolm. Thank you.
All right.
Luke, you can start.
Jameis, how difficult was it out there today, just in terms of the rush kind of getting after you early in the course of the day?
I just got to get better, get us in better protections, and just communicate better out there.
Richard Walker.
Jameis, the loss of a bunch of coaches on the offensive side, how much of an impact did that have on the game today and your game plan?
None at all. We just have to push forward, man. Put this one behind us, build on the positives and eliminate the negatives, and come back next week ready to fight and compete.
Doug Mouton.
Tim, Sean said that the offense just struggled to find any kind of rhythm. Would you agree with that? And And maybe explain that a little bit, please.
Well, I think rhythm is a big part of offensive success. So we will find that. We will find a way to play the football that we like to play, and we're going to learn from this one.
Mike Triplett.
Jameis, obviously both of those interceptions came in end-of-half game situations, but were those sort of risks you were willing to take in those situations, I guess?
Well, still got to make good decisions. They came at inopportune times. I don't want to have us in that position in the first place, but still have to take care of the football and do our best to win the turnover battle.
Jeff Noah.
So when the offense isn't getting going and you're facing pressure on all sides, what are the adjustments you make throughout a game to try to slow that pressure down?
I think the biggest thing is just playing the football that we play, being efficient on first and second down, not being long down the distances, and just getting the defense off rhythm and making sure that we're in the best position. We're staying ahead of the chains and executing.
Nick Underhill.
How big of a factor was that, their pressures? Was there anything that they were doing that caught you guys by surprise? Sean mentioned that there were some communication issues within that.
Yeah, I have to communicate better. I have to be louder. Our first time on the road, definitely have to be able to use my voice to communicate to the offensive lineman the protection and what we want.
Amy Just.
Yeah, what was your message to the rest of the offense after that one?
Just keep fighting. That's the biggest thing. We're going to put this one behind us. We will get better. We will pick up our tempo. I will get better from a communication standpoint and get more efficient on first and second downs.
Jameis, how frustrated would you say this one got by the third and fourth quarter? How was your level of frustration?
I just got to do a better job communicating. I think that's the biggest thing. We have to continue to push forward, and like I say, eliminate the negatives and just build on the positives, man. I've been a part of these games before. A lot of people have been a part of these games before, but we can't let this game affect us heading to next week.
Got time for a couple more. Mike.
Jameis, I was also going to ask about how much Carolina plays. I think it's described as one of the highest pressure rates in the league in over a decade. Was there anything you expected from film, or that was something that maybe you guys adjusted?
Well, we definitely just have to be on top of communication. I think that's the biggest thing. They did a good job over there on their side, but I have to take full responsibility of communicating to the offensive line and making sure that we're in the right place at the right time.
Luke Johnson.
Hey, Jameis, is there anything to playing your real true road environment for 2 years? Is that the guys kind of have to adjust to that again and get used to hearing things and all that stuff?
I think it plays just in terms of tempo. But I'm happy that we were able to experience that. Their fans were definitely into it. I'm excited when we get back home because I know our fans are going to be rocking way louder than this place. But, man, our focus right now is putting this one behind us, seeing how we can improve and get better and show up next week.
Appreciate your time, James.
I appreciate y'all.
That's it for today.
Wrapping up the player availability after the 26-7 loss to the Carolina Panthers. Big buzzword on the offensive side of the ball was communication, something that they're going to need to work on this upcoming week ahead of the game at New England against the Patriots. That's going to be a big one, another big rivalry there. And of course, on the defensive side of the ball, needing to clean up those second and third downs, not allowing such big yardage there on the third down plays and cleaning up some of those penalties that were there as well. everyone saying that they're going to definitely diagnose what was wrong in this game, work on those things to fix going forward. Execution will be better going forward. And I like what Jameis said. He was very matter of fact. We will get better. That will do it for our coverage post-game here against the Carolina Panthers. Make sure you tune in next week for Dome at Home presented by Sanderson Farms as we will preview things ahead of the game against the New England Patriots. I'm Erin Summers. Thanks again to John DeShazier for holding it down in Charlotte.